Morning, guys. So we are checking out of our Airbnb here in Utah. We've had a few days to just relax for our 18th anniversary, and so it's time to head home in just a few minutes. We're checking out, but this place is absolutely gorgeous. We're gonna miss it for sure. Can you guys see this? We stayed on this golf course in this little canyon that's just absolutely beautiful, to use my phrase. Absolutely beautiful. How are you feeling?
Beautiful. Feeling very relaxed.
And refreshed. You're ready to go home and hug our kids.
Absolutely ready to see my kiddos and hug them a lot.
This has been wonderful. So we're gonna go ahead and check out of our Airbnb and probably grab some coffee because we have a few hours before we need to be at the airport. So I figured this would be a great time to sit down and chat with you guys about some of the questions you guys have. A lot of times I get questions about adoption and adoption related things, and so I thought that this would be a great time to go ahead and answer some of those. And since Steven's with me, he can answer some of those questions as well. I hadn't planned on him being a part of the video, but I think it'll be kind of cool to get the perspective of both the mom and the dad throughout the whole adoption process. So let's go get some coffee, wake up really well, and then we will sit down and chat. Okay. Okay guys, so I should have thought through this a little bit better and made sure that we had a good spot to do this Q&A, but it's kind of windy outside and there's nowhere that's really quiet, so we're gonna do this Q&A in the car.
Went to a coffee shop and there was a big 18-wheeler parked outside. Then we went to this national park that's really beautiful over here, and it was
very loud,
super windy. It wasn't gonna work. So
hopefully the audio is okay for you guys here in the car. Sometimes it kind of has that bubble effect, but I'm hoping that this will work out well and we can go ahead and answer some of those questions for you guys. We got our coffee. It's super yummy.
Got our coffee, got our questions right here.
So we get a lot of questions from you guys about the adoption process in general, and honestly about some of those challenges, and I think just a lot of curiosity and maybe some fears about the adoption process, because I know a lot of times people are really interested in possibly adopting, but there are those what ifs, and I think everybody struggles with that at times, just kind of wondering what could be challenging or what could go wrong. It's a huge journey for a family to choose to do, and so that's really understandable. We definitely had a lot of questions in the beginning of the process for us as well, so we're definitely not experts on this by any means, but we have adopted 4 children, and so from that perspective we can share with you guys what we've learned along the way. Right?
I think so.
Okay, so some of the biggest questions that we've gotten, you want to
what helps with bonding for the child and for the parent? Because both set, adoption is 2 parties coming together, right? So what helps with bonding, and how long does it take for both the child and the parent?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest questions that we do get, and I think because there's just a lot of curiosity about what that looks like, and it's similar to, I would say it's similar to when you have a baby biologically and you have all those questions. What are they going to be like? And how are they going to fit into the dynamic of our family? And it's very similar when you adopt a child as well. Of course, when you adopt a child, there is more to their story that starts before you bring them into your home. And so
especially the older they get,
in older child adoption, there's definitely more layers to it. But I would say some of the biggest things as far as for parents to bond with children, I read about, and I found this to be true for myself too, just being very hands-on in taking care of your child. So for me, brushing Penelope's hair when she first came home and helping her, get ready, picking out clothes, just being very, very hands-on, helping to make her food and hugs and that kind of thing if your child is comfortable at first. that I feel like physical touch is very, very important.
Yeah.
And also for older kids. And when I say older kids, a lot of times we're just talking older than babies, right?
Yeah, like even Jude and Liam would have been considered older. They were 5 and 3 when they came home.
Yeah, almost 5.
Yeah.
And one of the things we heard is that, like, do those things with your children that you would have done when they were younger. And I know that can kind of sound weird, but like Jude and Liam, you know, being 3 and 5, like we would put them on our laps and rock them in the rocking chair and read stories to them like you would with a younger toddler, right? And they loved it, and it just fostered that bonding, the physical touch, you know, the reading the books together and all that kind of thing. I just feel like is so important because you didn't have those moments with your kids when they were younger, and so in some ways it's fostering that connection
with you as well, within your own heart as well. You know, not just with them, but within you. Right. And so also some of the training that you go through whenever you're getting ready to adopt would say that a lot of these kids, and this isn't all of them, but a lot of these children are coming from a place of trauma, from a place of loss, from a place of grief, and so what they would say is like, it's, you know, like you're sort of trying to replace those bad moments, those bad memories, those tragic whatever, with good ones, with good memories, with good moments, with good, you know. Yeah,
not that you're ever going to be able, you can't erase trauma. That's not what we're saying. But what we are saying is that your child basically has these 2 baskets. They have good experiences in their life and they have negative experiences in their life. And a lot of times they come to you with a lot of very negative experiences and a lot of loss and a lot of pain. And so what the picture that they gave us in adoption training is that your job is to start filling the basket of good experiences of bonding, of safety, of love, of you know, all those good things. And each experience one at a time is kind of starting to fill that, so that eventually they have more of this than they do of the pain and the loss. It's like an
overdrawn bank account, right? And you just want to keep making those deposits until, as much as it's up to you, that bank account can be.
And again, so you have all these good experiences. That doesn't mean that this is not still here, and that is not going to be a challenge at times, that they're not going to still carry with them some of those wounds, right? And those are things that you have to be walking with your child through, and that's really lifelong.
How long does it take? Like that's, I mean, for some children it will take forever.
It takes as long as it takes.
You know, and for parents too, like bonding for the parent and bonding for the child sort of happens on its own timeline based on the person. So we can't give you like a, you know, it's going to take this long, because for every person it's a little bit different, and for every child, you know.
And I think for parents, like you go into adoption, you have this fierce love for your child from the beginning, right? You're starting this process because you love that child and you want to welcome them into your home. And so that is already there, but there is another layer to it as you get to know each other and as you become familiar with each other, where that very deep sense of security and safety and familiarity and all of that does take time. And again, that's kind of unique to each family, to each person.
I think that rolls into the next question really well. So have you ever struggled with anxiety and depression? And I think in this particular context, as it relates to adoption, and sort of the, you know, postpartum type phase of adopting,
it can be very real. It is actually very real for a lot of families. So if you are struggling with anxiety or depression in the context of adoption, you are not alone. That is very, very normal. Just like it is to struggle with postpartum depression after you have a baby biologically.
And we both went through that.
In different ways and at different times. I feel like the times where maybe I was struggling, you were doing really well, and the times where you were struggling, I was doing really well. So I feel like that really helped to have your partner to kind of lean back on. But it's an enormous change for your family, and there are times where it's really scary or where it just is a huge adjustment, and so it does take time, and that can affect you physically, emotionally, mentally, all of that. So you have to be very gentle and kind with yourself.
And it doesn't mean you don't love your child, you know. That's definitely, I mean, in the same way that if you had a biological baby and you were struggling with postpartum depression, that doesn't mean you don't love that baby. It's just there's a lot of hormones, there's a lot of change, there's a lot of even maybe grieving the loss of the life you had before that happens with some people, and parents in particular. You know, all of those kinds of things are very normal and do happen a lot, and have happened with us.
So I would say, like, don't feel like you are alone if that is the case for you. It's important to get the support that you need, from friends and loved ones and, your spouse, and maybe counseling if you need that, sometimes even medication, and all of those things can be very helpful. It was important for us to recognize, like, this is just a season where we're adjusting and we're learning our new normal and all of that. And so it's not somewhere where you stay forever. So I'm really thankful for that. Yeah. But it can be a challenge at times. And so, I just want to be very real with you guys that can be something that you can go through. So
food hoarding. This one's a big one. There are a lot of people asking, how do you deal with food hoarding? Have you dealt with food hoarding? Yeah,
and we've touched on this in the past. Out of respect for our children, we're not going to go into too much detail, but I will say food issues are one of the biggest things that adoptive families will see with their children when they bring them home. And it makes a lot of sense because food can be a huge source of security for anyone, regardless of what their past has been like. Yeah. And so that can be a way of coping. And so you could see that from food hoarding, food insecurity, gorging.
Especially with kids who have had to go through situations where they have had to not have food.
Yeah, where they didn't have enough. And some of our kids have gone through that. And so that is really heartbreaking. I will say, I think we were pretty naive. Like we had a lot of really great training, but I think that we were pretty naive as to the long-lasting effects that it can be. So some kids can come home and they can, you can see some food issues kind of crop up, and that can last just a couple weeks or a couple months. For some children, it can last a lot longer. And so it can be really heartbreaking to see your children struggling. But I will say that as a parent, the best thing you can do is be really intentional in meeting those felt safety, the felt safety needs. So helping your child to just be constantly reminded, like, you're safe, you're okay now, you have enough, you will always have enough, and just meeting those needs daily can help to kind of reassure your child. But that kind of trauma from not having enough, or just from feeling out of control, food can be something that's easily controlled, or that can help you feel better. And so that can be a pretty common thing that you see with kids. But
So, this one's an interesting one. How do you feel about being considered white saviors by some?
Okay, so that's kind of getting deep into it.
We read that, we're like,
Well, we've heard that a good bit, honestly, guys, and I know that everybody kind of looks at this through their own lens of the things that they've been through, what they've heard, just their own experiences. And so I don't want to negate other people's experiences by any means, but I will say that for us, yes, we are a white family, white parents, and we do have a diverse family. It's not because we in any way felt like we were saviors or we were going out to just like save these children, but we made the decision that we wanted our family to reflect the beauty of diversity and to show the beauty of all people groups, all cultures. And there's so much division in the world, and there's so much hate and negativity, and so we wanted our family to reflect how beautiful diversity is, and our kids are just absolutely beautiful, amazing children. And so we just look at it through a different lens. And so I do feel like we're trying to have this posture of humility and like hearing other people's perspectives and where they've come from and learn from that.
And at the same time, I would just caution you, if you're dealing with worrying about how people may perceive you, if you are white and you're wanting to adopt or whatever that might be, don't allow a fear of people's perception to stop you from doing something that you're passionate about. Particularly in the area of adoption, there are 150 million orphans in the world who don't have parents, and that's a huge need. And so you're not being a savior or a white savior or whatever to want to do something about that and want to make your family look a certain way or whatever that may be.
It's not a bad thing to adopt children who need families. Children are not meant to grow up in institutions, and the statistics that they show what happens to children when they grow up apart from loving families that are safe. And it's absolutely heartbreaking. Children need families, and so don't let that deter you.
Don't let fear of being judged by people keep you from doing something that maybe you really feel called to do or convicted to do or whatever that may be, passionate about doing.
Yeah.
So, did you consider adopting domestically?
Yes.
We did.
We did. And we went through foster care training too before we adopted.
Yeah. We were licensed in the state of Texas, and then we moved to Missouri. And basically we're told in Missouri that we were not going to get a placement. And that was, I think, fairly heartbreaking.
There's a lot of dynamics to, especially foster care. And foster care is set up for the purpose of reunifying birth families, if at all possible. So 9 times out of 10, they are trying to get those families healthy enough that their children can be reunified with them, which is great. But obviously, in the perfect world, you want birth families to stay together. You know, in the perfect world, adoption's not even necessary.
Yeah.
But we live in a very broken world, and so obviously adoption is necessary a lot of times. So as far as foster care goes, you know, there's just a lot that goes into that, but really, you don't go into foster care to adopt. You go into foster care to love on these children who are waiting to be placed back into their biological families.
Yeah.
Domestically,
as far as private domestic adoption and things like that, like we know several friends of ours who, for whatever reason, haven't been able to have children of their own biologically, and have gone that route of going domestic adoption. And
there's a long wait list.
There's a long wait, but also like we already had 2 biological children, and so like there was a point where we're like, they're waiting and waiting and waiting for an infant. Like, how would we?
We don't need to be on that wait list when there's so many children that are on wait lists worldwide.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that as we continue to really look into it and just hear about the need of children who were maybe a little bit harder to place, maybe they were older, maybe they were a sibling group, maybe they have special needs. That really broke our hearts. And that's really what
we told our agency. We were like, we have 2 biological children. We want older children. We want a sibling group. We want those children who are not likely to be adopted otherwise.
Right. Yeah. So that was really kind of our mindset, is that there were so many children that are already waiting. They were on waiting lists that just needed families, and so that felt like the appropriate choice for our family. I think each family is different, and all of those options are phenomenal. So it just depends on, you know, what you feel called to and what fits well for your family.
Yeah. So. For sure. So a lot of people are asking about the adoption process, and there's just kind of I think we can really quickly sort of, you know, shotgun this thing. Which process was easier, China or Ethiopia?
They were both, I would say, about the same, because they were both very established programs. China definitely was the most established adoption program, and so you really know there's not a lot of unknowns. You know how it's going to go. You know each step of the way. Both of those processes were about a year start to finish, so really not that long.
And pretty similar cost-wise as well, I would say.
Yeah.
You know.
I will say the Ethiopian adoption program is not currently open.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of reasons for why they closed down international adoption. We can get into that, you know, maybe on a different video. But I would say that both processes were pretty similar. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, agreed.
So, sorry guys, our camera is overheating. We are going to answer these last couple questions quickly, but
super quick. How do you afford the cost of adoption? It is not cheap to adopt. Yeah. And so
adopting through the foster care system is actually relatively low cost. And again, most children are trying to be reunified with their birth families, but on those cases where that's not the case, it is generally pretty low cost, and I think there is some.
They actually pay you if you look, and this is a horrible reason to adopt.
They pay you for foster care.
They pay you to foster the child. It's a minimal fee.
It basically covers the cost of taking care of that child.
And then once you, I don't. This may be different from state to state, but they cover health care, they cover college.
Yes, if you adopt from the foster care system, they're going to cover your child's health care and I think 4 years of college. Yeah. So that's really great, and that's a great incentive for families to adopt out of the foster care system. Yeah. Because there are a lot of kids who do need families and do need homes. Now, if you are adopting privately, domestically, or internationally, you not only do not get any assistance of any kind, it is very, very expensive. And so...
Well, there is an adoption tax credit.
Yes,
that does help.
That's true.
And generally speaking, what that does is help you to pay back some of the adoption loans that you have taken out, which, we certainly did.
Obviously, probably most families that adopt do not just have large amounts of money laying around.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of things that you can do. You can apply for grants, and I think we got a couple
for a
of
few
grants.
We were given, I think, 3 grants with the boys and 2 grants with Penelope and Lincoln.
And so a lot of times grants can be anywhere from like $500 up to maybe $1,500 to $2,000. I think maybe a little bit higher than that.
Yeah. You can check out Show Hope. Stephen Curtis Chapman has an amazing organization called Show Hope. Check out Show Hope. Caitlin's Fund was one of the grants that we got. Life Song for Orphans was one of the grants that we got.
Yeah, Google search.
Actually, the Life Song,
grants.
the Life Song one was a loan.
They also do like
interest loan.
Yeah, which is also very helpful. So with the adoption process, you are paying fees like all along the way. So it's like, okay, the fee for the home study is due in the beginning, and then there's, different things. So it's not like you need the entire amount at the very, very beginning. And we did not have the entire amount at the beginning.
Yeah.
We, like, each time we decided to start the process, when we had the initial amount for the home study, and then knew that we were going to be working really hard doing fundraisers and side jobs and that kind of thing to pay for the rest of it. And we did.
We sold coffee. We sold shirts. People gave just out of the goodness of their heart. And some adoption agencies will allow you to receive tax-deductible donations into that fund. And we had that. That was really helpful. We had a friend who said, hey, if you'll come over and bring all the kids and landscape our house, we'll pay, for the flights of whatever.
The airfare for the entire family.
And so there's just like God moment after God moment after God moment of the Lord just providing. And we come from a place of faith, obviously. And so like we just believed that was God kind of saying, here you go. Like,
each time that we started the process, we, prayed a ton, and as soon as we really felt like, okay, this is the right time for our family, and we had that initial fee that comes up pretty quickly, that's when we started that process and just prayed for God to provide along the way, and knew that we would be working really hard, and he did every step of the way each time. And so
the kids would bake brownies and take them around the neighborhood and sell brownies.
The whole family got involved.
We did like a spaghetti dinner at one point, and people could buy tickets to come to. I mean, you just get creative because it's your children. Like, you want your children home, and you'll do anything that you need to do to get them home. And so that's.
But don't let the cost deter you, because it is possible. There are ways to raise those funds. It is scary, and it is a lot of work, but it's possible.
The best way was with Penelope and Lincoln. There's a guy in the White House at the time named Stephen Miller, right? And so my Twitter has been a hotbed of everything for the last 5 years.
Mistaken for the Stephen Miller from the White House.
I don't even want to be on Twitter anymore because it's just nothing but hateful messages to me. But anyway, at the time, I just said, hey guys, if you got the wrong guy, but if you want to put your money where your mouth is and actually love people rather than spewing hate all over me, here's our fund so that you can give to bring our children home. And we raised $2,700 that way.
Yeah, there was one guy that was like, done. He like literally donated like $2,000. It was incredible.
It was amazing. Let's talk about making lemonade out of lemons right there.
Yeah, that was a very unique one.
The news picked it up, like all the ABC News and NBC News. And
they came and interviewed Stephen. They were like,
pretty funny.
Local pastor gets trolled but turns it into a positive situation. That was
the best
funny.
thing.
So
it was funny.
Lots of ways that you can get creative.
All that to say, it's a daunting number when you look at how much it costs to adopt. But if you feel called to adopt and you feel passionate about adopting, like, you can do it, and God will provide. You can work really, really hard. You can make it work, and we have. And don't be afraid to ask for help from the community around you, because most people want to help. You know?
Very true.
So
very true.
Speaking of adopting again.
Okay, last question, and we did talk about this on the other Q&A on our family channel. And we've been talking about this a lot, but yes, we are open to adopting again, and we have been having these ongoing conversations about expanding our family. And yes, we are about to start the renovations on our new home, and so I feel like that's going to take most of our attention right now just to kind of get through that, but that is definitely something that is on the table for the pretty near future. And I would say, you can't really plan out the future, right? But in my mind, I can totally see us adopting one more time and having one more baby biologically. But, who knows what the Lord will do. And so we are open to that. I think he's really open to one more, but is a little nervous about two more, as you can clearly tell.
I'm okay with whatever. I'm just at the point where I've let go of control, and I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm just gonna allow wherever God leads us. Our answer is yes.
And that's the tagline that Stephen actually came up with this for my Christmas present, 4 years ago? The Miller family tagline, which is where grace guides will go. And I love that so much, because I feel like that is very fitting. That is kind of the mantra for us, is just wherever the Lord leads, we know that he will provide. We know that he is writing our story. And so we're just going to leave that up to him, and just try to be very open-handed about what may look like. But very much excited about that possibility. And so we shall see, guys. So hopefully this answered some of you guys' questions. And if you have more questions, you can always message us on Instagram. We try to be pretty good about responding to those messages on the Miller fam, Stephen's personal account, my personal account. So we can answer more of those questions for you guys. But those were some of the big ones that we get a lot. And just kind of talking about those challenges and things that we don't talk about all the time on our family channel, because that's more so just kind of telling our story of what we're up to with the kids. And so a lot of times there's not really an appropriate time to kind of sit down and talk about sometimes there's challenges in this area or that area. So I felt like this would be kind of helpful to answer some of you guys' questions. But we are going to head to the airport now and go home and hug our kiddos. It's been a few days, and it's been a wonderful anniversary trip. But camera overheated a second time. And I was like, I just needed 5 more seconds. Just a second. Anyways, we love you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye. Life is gonna happen one way or the other, whether you like it or not. Stop looking for the answers, and you'll find what you've got.